You may have heard, but I'm on a little bit of a road show going on with Vendoroo, and the first one was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Then we did an awesome one in Dallas, Fort Worth. We're coming to North Carolina in Raleigh next, hosting these dinners where we're basically opening the kimono for people winning with AI. And the reason why we started in Pennsylvania is because Jeff and Wendy Wright are the quintessential example of folks that are not early adopters, that got in early just because they see the upside. AI they weren't really ready for the experience then, but then they got back in about a year ago and now they're having extraordinary results. So we hosted this conversation with probably about like 20 other people in the room. It's Jeff and Wendy Wright from Foundation First Property Management in rural Pennsylvania. David Normand, who is our chief property manager. You're going to be hearing much more from him on this podcast as we continue to realize like how much gold is in his brain, and me moderating the conversation. I wanted to share this with you because it's got some really, really good insights about kind of like why they got in early, kind of like the struggles that they had early on, and the things that had to happen for them to get comfortable in order to help you make the best decision that you can. But enjoy this conversation with Jeff and Wendy Wright. They're really, really awesome people. And if you're going to broker owner in the next month, A, I want to see you. B, Jeff and Wendy will be there. Make sure that you say hi to them. Hope to see you there. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go.
One of the reasons I'm doing this is I'm having a conversation with Jen, and I'm like, Jen, we're buddies. Like, what's it going to take for you to try Vendoroo? And she's like, I don't know, man. It's risky, right? Like this idea of like handing over maintenance to an AI, it's definitely risky. We understand how scary that is. We understand how much there's like over promises in the world of AI, all these different kinds of things. And then she's like, you know what? You know, the closest I ever got to giving y'all a shot, I had just left your room at Northern Nationals. I was sitting by the bar with Jeff and Wendy talking about, hey, the Vendoroo guys just gave me the whole spiel. Or, you know, like she was talking about her special treatment she got. And then Jeff and Wendy looked at me and said, oh, yeah, we've been using it for like a year and a half. And she's like, what? You? And it was just like this moment where she's like, Jeff and Wendy they're not the prototypical early adopter, kind of like risk taking, you know, like doing these kinds of things. She's like, if they're doing it, then that made me really, really interested. So we reached out to Jeff and Wendy to see if y'all wanted to kind of like do this thing with us. You graciously said yes, which we really, really appreciate. And I would love to start there. What made you say yes to doing this?
I think I'll kind of start with going back to Jen's presentation. We always feel that we're inferior, that we've got the imposter syndrome, that we don't belong. And that's just hard for us to adapt, to get the owner sold on something, to get the tenant sold on something, to get the employees sold on something. We need to know it's going to work or else there's going to be pushback. And that's why we are just slow to adopt, do anything new. But they talk about how quickly technology changes, how the memory and information or whatever it is doubles at whatever rate of speed they're talking about. And I'd imagine with AI, it's going to be much more rapid. And if you're not implementing it or using it or something, you're really going to be behind the curve in the years to come. There's a lot of fear in the real estate world, in the property management world, in the realtor world about how is AI going to disrupt things? Is it going to cause job loss? Is it going to be a security concern? So these are things that we've had to wrestle with as we moved forward and made our decisions with AI.
Mm-hmm. When did you want to share why are you doing this?
Pennsylvania chapter meeting, and there was a vendor there. His name was Shane, and got up and told us who he was, and he mentioned, I work for Vendoroo. I didn't realize I was going to be pioneering with them and riding this storm with them. But one thing I am passionate about is when I feel like there are vendors out there that are working for you to make life easier for you. They're doing everything they can for you. I stuck it out through thick and thin. There were some choppy waters. There was some learning curves. There was some comments, complaints, constructive criticism. And you know what? These two in the program that they're in the vendor area that they represent, they listened. They listened to me. They took my comments, they took my criticisms, and they made them better. I did not lose one tenant over it. I did not lose one owner over it. I did not lose any employees. I had a little bit of frustration with my vendors because they had to deal with this new way of doing things, but we got through it. I was trying to get myself out of the trenches. I didn't want my maintenance coordinator that I had at the time wasn't really helping. So I was trying to rely on these VAs, these remote team members. And what Vendoroo was doing is they were building something totally different. They started out with these remote team workers. I had a VA out of Colombia that I was working with, physical person. And what we were finding is I could not get the dollar out of my head and onto this VA. Okay, college, I had history of these properties. I had history of, what's been done in the past. How was I supposed to get this over to these so that they can make decisions based on how I would make a decision? That was a challenge. And Vendoroo was not ready at that time. And however, they were listening. There was a time that I had to step out away from Vendoroo and go back to hiring another maintenance coordinator. I will tell you, no matter what AI you have, you probably still need boots on the ground in some way, shape, or form. Okay? But I brought on another maintenance coordinator. I said goodbye to Vendoroo. And that maintenance coordinator failed me too. So again, I'm back in the trenches. I have these issues. I'm trying to resolve it. I run into Vendoroo again. However, they have grown. And it was 1 year later, I think, when I left them that I came back and they were a totally different company. They didn't even have VAs anymore. They were completely AI. They had a different color. They had a different logo. It was amazing, and we were pretty impressed with their presence in the group that we belonged to, NARPM. And the same people I worked with prior to that, they were still there. So I already felt like family, and so they brought me in, and I started talking again, and they started listening. So I found myself signing back up for this AI. And I think I've been doing it for a year, the AI program. And we're going to go through some examples. But in 1 year, I have AI talking to my tenants like I was talking to my tenants. I cannot believe the conversations that are going on behind the scenes at 8 o'clock at night, on a weekend, when I'm sitting at home having coffee with my husband. It is just amazing. It takes time to tweak that, though. But you need vendors like this that really want to see you succeed and really want to make this a better environment for you. So that's my story. I'm almost hands off. I mean, there's a dashboard there for me, but I don't go in there very often because AI is doing the work for me, and I got these people behind the scenes checking in. They're doing all this data analysis and letting me know if I have to, fix things, add things. So it's just been amazing. And I think where we are the weakest is our people managing people business. We manage property very well, but we can't manage the people in our office. And to tell my maintenance coordinator everything I need him to do over and over and over and over again. So we're stuck as people. And my only outlet is to go AI and let AI do most of that work. So if you're not jumping on board, I think you're going to get stuck behind.
If you're listening to this, I can understand why you're like, wow, this is a really good experience, right? But what makes Vendoroo different? Here's what we take real great pride of here at Vendoroo. Number one is the idea that we're the ones that work when things break, right? Like we own these edge cases. Most other AIs handle just kind of like the happy path, and that's not the real world. That might be 60 to like 70% of things, but the real risk is in those 30% edge cases when things fall through. That's when the liability risk happens. That's when residents get upset. That's when staff has a bad experience and your team gets stuck cleaning up and it becomes really, really inefficient. That's where most systems fail. And this is truly where we operate. And the way that we're able to do this is this team that we have built around this. Agentic AI is not a software. You can't think of it as a standalone tool. It is how you actually deliver an outcome. And the truth of the matter is, after 500 plus agentic deployments, and 2 million workflows audited, what we see every single day is that a smart escalation strategy of a human that is on the side of the agentic provider that handles the last mile for you, so it doesn't just turn on all this different noise and continues to help you with the human layer transition. That is the invisible layer that nobody else has. So if you want to ask what changed for Wendy from when she started kind of with us, left us, and came back, and what's really working, it's that human layer. It's that ability to right size edge cases and to fully own outcomes, so she is not in the weeds. You're going to hear for the rest of this conversation how she has totally gotten her life back, and it's in no small part because of this. Go to Vendoroo.ai if you want to be with the team that understands how to implement this and give you the highest chance to succeed. Vendoroo.ai, schedule a demo. Let's get you on board.
Before we go into those examples, Dave, what I'd love for you to tell is like give that perspective, of like, when I joined with David, he was just like, man, we got to tell property managers, we got to thank him for building the future. They're enlisting in building the future, right? Like I've never heard anybody actually repeat that, of like feeling that she was on board. And just give a little background of, why it was a remote thing to then becoming an AI thing, and equally as important, why once it became fully AI, we kept the people very purposefully.
Yeah. First of all, my name is David, Chief Property Manager. And why I'm the Chief Property Manager and not the Chief Product Manager is because I started out just like all you guys 20 years ago. Me and a buddy of mine, he was the owner. I came on early as a leasing agent, and we built a property management company from 85 doors to 600 doors in 4 years. Okay. And we had one simple plan. Our marketing plan was, Dave is your guy. Okay? That was the marketing plan. And other property management companies are like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we don't sell a service, we sell a person, right? And owners really responded to that. But I had a problem. Dave can only manage so many things as an individual. So I left there, and I had the fortunate opportunity to actually manage Fannie Mae's rental portfolio for them. And then I spent a large second of my career building maintenance logistics for the big SFR REITs who had the big boom after and were purchasing all the single-family homes. What I saw, though, from that experience was that the resources and capital that we had, I was, managing 50,000 doors at one point. And, to be able to spend that type of money, and I always knew, man, if I could just bring this technology and these resources down to where I came from, to think about the burn and the churn and the fact that amazing people like us are trying to figure out ways to duplicate ourselves. And to your point about the maintenance coordinator, how do I get all this information out? I was obsessed with that from day one. So, you know, talking about Wendy's story, it was so cool to see a person like Wendy show up on the scene early, because I label her on the control scale. She's a 10. Okay. Property managers are about 5 to 10. And I was like, if I can win her over, I know that the rest of the industry will follow because of her critical process thinking. And to have to achieve that and the outcome through AI was a challenge that I took on. And so, like, I always thought, like, I got to win Wendy over. And when she left in the beginning, that was like, I took that super personal. Like, it was really hard for me. And there's other ones that we went through that journey that was tough because, you know, when we started this out, what we did is that when people are building AI, and I'm telling you guys right now, is that one of the things that we do well at Vendoroo is we are coaches first that are trying to solve the hardest problem in this industry, and that's maintenance. And we didn't start with the easy stuff, which is like leasing or like, you know, setting resident benefit, like happy, like notes here, like that stuff is easy. Handling complex maintenance flows is extremely challenging because the property management industry has made it pretty much a standard that every property manager says, I know how to run a property management best, and these are my policies, and this is the way that I do something. And the data on the way that property managers work is, it's unbelievable how many workflows that you guys have, right? Like, you know, this owner will handle HVAC, but only if it's on a Tuesday, and if he had a black cup of coffee in the morning, and I have to email his cousin, who's then going to tell Frank that the keys are underneath the, you know, the carpet in the front door, and like that's my process flow. Oh, and by the way, like AI just do that perfect every time. Okay, right. So in that journey with her, we started out with VAs first. Okay, and what we did is we watched the way and the behavior that everybody was performing with this, and used the data to begin to teach the AI. Okay, so the first part I want to talk about here is you guys have heard so much about AI. It's like just jamming down your throats in the past like 6 months, right? AI, every conference that you go to. So let's just talk about the things that are true, real, and safe, okay? So what's safe? And I'm going to start with Wendy. Wendy knows that troubleshooting is safe, okay? But you can't just build a chatbot form base because Wendy doesn't talk in a chatbot form based troubleshooting. She has empathy, consideration, knowledge that her AI has to mimic so that her residents feel that they are experiencing the same level of service that Foundation First would have if that person was on the phone. That was really hard to mimic. And for the most part, the AI talks like Wendy does to her residents. And her residents have a 94% satisfaction rate with every coordination that they have for every maintenance work order that they have. So let's just look at one example. I have one of yours, but I want to just show one here, right? So one of the things that we had to do is a lot of people were in the dark because you're used to working with people. And so this is how you work with Roo, right? This is on your mobile phone. It's on your desktop. And so before I get into this, how many work orders come into Wendy's office? What's the percentage of work orders that come into Wendy's office when her doors are closed? Does anybody have a guess? How many work orders does she receive when her lights are off after hours? As a percentage of her total volume of work orders, how many do you think come in afterwards? Yeah, so about 67% of all work orders across the board. It's about 50% of all your work orders are coming in afterwards. So just understand what's easy. The new standard in property management is you are a 24/7 company now. That's just the new standard. Like, I'm not sitting up here and telling you, like, it's just the guy across the street from you is doing that, okay? And as a result, the amount of open work orders that property managers would come to us with would be about 17% of their portfolio would have an open work order when they have human-led. That number has dropped down to 9.8%. So just having a system that cuts out the 12 and the 24-hour gaps that a human-led maintenance does has improved us as an industry. When we're talking about industry benchmarks, we are 40% less open work orders. That means better retention, residents are happier, and things are getting done quicker. Okay, so here's an example here. So resident submits in a work order, and his HVAC system isn't working. Okay, so the first thing that Rue's like asking is like, hey, listen, I'm noticing that you're saying that this is just in a room. Okay, you're not saying this is in the building. So my first question that I need to ask you is, do you have a mini split? And the resident's like, yeah, I do. It's like, cool. Well, first of all, like, that's instant intelligence. You didn't start like, did you replace your filter? Or you're talking about a single bedroom, and it's like, I know this, and this probably has to do with the mini split. So the resident's like, yeah, I have the mini split in my room. Got it. Are there like, can you just tell me like the make, model, like what are you kind of working with here, right? And the guy's like, I have no idea what the model is or the make of this is. Okay, no worries. Do me a favor. I want you to turn it off. I want you to wait 10 seconds. I want you to put it back on the heat mode and then turn it back on and let me know if that happens. Great, that worked. 10 o'clock at night. Okay? The intelligence that just happened there, guys, on that piece of that work is from hundreds of thousands of data points of watching property managers speak and behave with their residents to build an empathetic, intelligent triage. And I'll say this again, it is just the new standard in property management. And it's safe. Why is it safe? Because you have the ability to control it, train it, teach it, name it, tell it what to do, what not to do. You could say, hey, I just need to let you know that apartment A, the thermostat, is in unit B. So if apartment A ever has no heat, you got to make sure that the person in the unit B gets involved, because we're going to have a wasted trip fee that goes out because the guy can't get into the unit. The context shift that you guys should be excited about with AI now, and what Wendy talked about, is for the first time, you have the ability to build a control point for how your company runs and operates that you own. All the stuff that you have in your minds, all the things that you guys are thinking about, all the stuff that's your properties can now be built and stored as a record of truth, that it doesn't matter if you lose a maintenance coordinator, or it doesn't matter if you, like, maybe like one of your best property managers leaves. And that is such a disruption to your business. Like, it throws you guys off the rails, and all the effort that you have to put back into somebody to train them. Now you can say, no worries, just like Rue's got it. Just monitor him and he'll let you know if he needs an issue. So that's really cool. So number one, troubleshooting is safe. Wendy also uses AI voice, right, to do your stuff. And you want to talk, you want to talk a little bit about that?
So I do have the maintenance troubleshooting. And then I also have the receptionist. I guess that's what you call it now. So the receptionist right now, I have it trained to take all of my after-hour calls. And it's talking to the anybody who calls and collecting all of the information, gathering the contact information, and it sends me an email, or it actually routes that email to the correct department that I have coded in my dashboard. So if it is a leasing call, they take the information and the contact and send it to the person who's getting the email for leasing. If it's maintenance, same thing. If it's a new owner, the RU will determine that if it's a new owner, and they'll take that information and send it over to Jeff at all hours of the day. And for Amish people, Amish owners that we have, they don't call us during the workday. They call us after hours. And so they're leaving messages. Our Amish people are. So we're able to gather that information, and then the next morning we're making calls back to these people.
I was just going to tie in that I don't like making phone calls. I don't like talking to people on the phone. And I had made a phone call somewhere. I can't remember what company it was, but I knew I was going to be on hold for like an hour, going through the phone tree and everything. And they had some type of AI set up. So they answered the phone, and I just said what I was looking for. And they said, great, what's your account number? pulled it up, and what can we help you with? Tell them, and it gave me the answer. So like 2 minutes compared to the old phone tree system of trying to get directed to somebody. And we say this at least once a week. I wish the electric and the gas companies would get on board with this, because I don't know how many wasted hours every week, every month are spent dealing with these phone trees and waiting for a phone call back or whatever.
Yeah, Wendy and I were actually sitting at the table mapping out workflows for utilities, just FYI, before this conversation here. So yes, you will definitely have the credit on that one. We'll chisel it into the IPO, Wendy. A couple of interesting things real quick here, guys, about this. You know, you guys are data people, right? Average 10% of all work orders are avoided. The top performers are achieving 20% because they're putting in their knowledge and the information that they're giving to their residents. An example, one of the most common single ones. I'm surprised how many policies don't talk to residents about what is and what is not their responsibility with the most common work order type that residents submit when it comes to light bulbs. And how many of you do not have that if the light bulb requires a ladder or greater than 15 feet, that is property management responsibility and not the resident's responsibility. Policies have gone to a whole new level, and this is what the exciting part of the story is now, is that we have the ability to, because for the first time in the history of property management, you have the ability now to take your company's information and you can compare yourself against the entire property management industry that is using AI to run their thing and see where do you stand. There's no more going to a conference and listening to somebody being like, we do it best this way, we do it best this way. You can just see where you stack up now. And it lets you know that based upon the most successful people, and I will tell you, there are a number of property managers, and there's a couple in this room and that back table, that are achieving 90 to 95% work order automation day in and day out. And we are seeing that across the board, where that means 0 people are touching that work order from the time that the intake comes in until the time that you receive an invoice and close it out. It is just happening across the board. The average is 83% of work order automation. Okay. Right. We're not talking about emergencies here. People, emergencies still require humans, empathy, phone call, voice support. That's why we still have our humans at Loop at Vendoroo. So now you can take a look at your business and you have the ability to understand, what do I need to do to prepare my company to be ready to maximize AI automation? Where are my gaps? What are my policy gaps? Where are my vendor gaps? And we have a really cool platform and tool, and you can work with my man Lou in the back if you want to have interest in this, just to see where do you stack up. For example, most property managers average about 24 hours response time with human-led maintenance departments. 24 hours is your average response time. With Rue, the average response time is 10 minutes across the board, okay? Most property managers, as we said, 17%. That's down to 9.8%. Resident satisfaction across the board has been consistent at 94%. And so now you can go through and you get this complete total report that breaks down everything for you. How many proactive work orders are you doing? What is the percentage of orders that are coming in? What are the properties that are getting the most? What are the tips? Everything that you need for a playbook to introduce AI. So it's not overwhelming, because I will tell you, when she started and other people started, onboarding was overwhelming, unbelievable. To extract all that knowledge through spreadsheets and documents and label it. I mean, it was insane. Like onboarding was like 30 days, right? Onboarding now is like one phone call, pull some reports, get yourself set up, spend your time doing your routing. We make it super easy for people, right? It's 85% reduction in effort to onboard now. You can have what she has in basically 48 hours. You can just flip a switch and take off like 30% of all your business and maintenance doing what Wendy does right now. And it's about 48 hours to have that rocketed.
I would like to, from Jeff and Wendy, you know, you're talking about kind of like, Dave is talking about training the voice, training the triage. Can you talk about what that is? Like, can you talk about kind of like the mix of stuff that's done for you with the team versus things that are just like natural language, you speaking to the AI?
I can do this. Okay. There is an internal system behind the scenes that Vendoroo controls that has already knowledge, has a knowledge base. It's not something you feed into, but it's already there. So even if you didn't do anything, it's triaging for you when you start up. So don't think you have to jump on this and get it all set up and then, in 3 days, because it's triaging based on its knowledge already before it even comes to you. And then on top of that, there's another layer. There's that personal layer where you're entering in all of that knowledge in your head. Like he said, well, we have a situation where there's an electric panel down in the basement of apartment 1 and it goes to apartment 2. So when 2 goes out, we have to call apartment 1. Well, if you leave it up to a VA in Colombia, how are they going to know to do that, to call unit 1 to get into the basement? These are the details that we have to keep in our head, and it's just too much. So, so when you get your dashboard and you're tweaking things, you're adding all of those details to that layer that's personal to you. You're adding ways of talking. Remove the word emergency. I had to ask Vendoroo to do that because Vendoroo likes to say, well, yeah, that's an emergency, or my Roo, I guess. That's an emergency, so let me take a work order and I'll submit it to the company. And I called Vendoroo. I says, I want to kind of remove the word emergency because that caused chaos. So when you're talking to the tenant, just kind of instead of emergency, use urgency, maybe, because emergency is a big bad word sometimes in the property management world. So I can pick and choose what words I want the Roo to use and what words I want the Roo not to use. So you can add all of that stuff in there and it keeps it for you. It's a one-time thing. And then I was given, I guess everybody is given somebody that you can call and have these one-on-one conversations with. I have him. It started out weekly conversations. Now it's bi-weekly because I don't need them as much anymore. But if I have an issue with a work order that's not going right, the conversation is not going right, I call that contact person that I have, and he's behind the scenes making it work. Because these people know how to talk that geeky tech talk. I don't. And I'm more of a bullet point person, but AI doesn't speak in bullet points. They speak in general language and almost baby talk. You have to tell it exactly what you want in detail. Just to say one thing, the paragraph has to be this much. So I leave it up to the guys behind the scenes to create my personal portfolio of nuances that is in my head. And I'll tell you, I've been out of the trenches since. I don't have to keep a lot of that stuff in my head anymore.
And one of the things that we had thought initially is these tenants would want to have that one-on-one interaction. They want to be talking with a person. They just want the problem solved. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And like the example David gave with the heat pump or the mini split, if it can be resolved right there, instead of needing it to go to the maintenance coordinator and, okay, let me send the emergency person out or whatever the case is, if they can solve it right then and there, that's perfect. That's what they want. That's going to be a happy tenant. And I can't remember what the statistics are. 81% of residents who don't renew their lease is because of maintenance issues, whatever it is.
You mentioned kind of like you can train the AI yourself, can talk to, your AI coach on the Vendoroo side. What does that look like? Is that like, do you keep like a notepad of things that you want to train the AI on? Is it just kind of like as something comes up, you just say, oh no, actually do it this way? What's that look like?
It's not. Like I said, it comes to you already trained for normal circumstances. And what I need to spend my time on is training it on my business, my issues, my owners, my tenants, my problems, all of that detail. I am busy. I wear many hats. I have a 40-hour-a-week job, but I probably put in 60 hours. So I don't have a lot of time to spend on the dashboard, but you do get a dashboard. You can control it. I don't have a lot of time to spend on the dashboard, but I go in every now and then and audit things. And as I see things, oh, for this, I'd like to see this feel better. I'd like to see this kind of conversation go a little differently. Or I'd like to see more triage here, maybe less questions. Because, tenants only want 3 questions because they're not going to answer any more than that. So you don't want to overwhelm them. So you can decide all of that. You can decide however many questions you want to ask this tenant before the triage ends. So I go in there every now and then and audit. I'd like to be in there a lot more, so that I can be more part of the awesomeness of it, I guess. But I can't right now in my position. I've got too much going on. But thankfully, I have my coach. He's doing things on the back end, making sure that I have utilized all of my areas. Another thing is, I keep reiterating this, it's already established when it comes to you. One thing I like is when we get the phone calls or we even get the maintenance orders that come in through our portal. How many of you have those maintenance orders or those phone calls where they're like a paragraph long and there's just a bunch of garbage in it, like emotion? They're flying off the handle, calling you every name in the book, telling you, why am I paying so much rent? You're not coming out here to do any of this. Well, the one thing that Rue does, my receptionist and the triage, is they remove all of that stuff. They get to the point, and that's the point they send to you. So the next day, I don't even know the emotional aspect that occurred last night between my Rue and this tenant. All I know is there's a leaky sink. That's it.
One part that Wendy, when you're talking about the emotion, because you do know that emotions are really important to a lot of you, is the resident sentiment. Your ability now to understand every resident who's frustrated or having a tough time is highlighted to you in real time. And think about the customer service aspect when you called them on their phone and said, hey, I just realized that work order that you submitted yesterday, like you were kind of having a tough day and we're just kind of following up with you and letting you know. That is retention. And to Jen's point, where we're talking about tough economic cycles and those pieces, we live in a world where DoorDash, Google reviews, and instant gratification is the standard for property management. And that's putting a lot of strain on us. That's what burned me out. And that was 20 years ago. And that's the stuff that, Wendy was talking about, being in the trenches. And I'm excited to hopefully be a part of the team that's helping you guys create instant demand and satisfaction for your residents. And so,
Anybody have any questions?
How many languages does it?
Who speak Spanish? I mean, it's all over the place. In my market in Hanover, Pennsylvania, we have so many Hispanic people migrating to the area. And it's one of the reasons for when we decided to go with a remote team member, we went with somebody out of Mexico instead of the Philippines or somewhere on the other side of the world, just to have a translator available. And one of the great things about Vendoroo is if somebody calls in and starts speaking in Spanish, it will speak in Spanish to them. Now, it comes to us in English as the final work order, but it is communicating with them in Spanish, and I'll let David explain the rest.
Yeah, great question. Phone base, we keep it between Spanish and English right now, but when people are coming through text base, we see people come in Korean and Russian, and so it has the ability to adapt, translate that, and put that back into your PMS system. So, yeah, I think 90 language.
I'm confident that this curve of AI has crossed the point of it does more than it doesn't do. And so we can sit here and talk about all day about what it does do. Maybe for those of us who are on the fence, including me, who run operations for a 600-door company, who run real humans, virtual and US-based humans to manage my maintenance and coordinate my maintenance. I have an in-house maintenance team. I run a team of vendors, and I run them in really super conservative, rural, north central Pennsylvania. What doesn't Vendoroo do at this point that I should be aware of when I'm making my decisions?
So when a person is introducing Roo to your business, you got to think about it in two ways. Am I trying to add on a force multiplier to my company? So my teams are working like 4x, 10x power, right? Because now I'm 24/7 helping them with burnout. We saw a lot of people putting things down about like retention, burnout, people about that. Or am I looking to build a maintenance department? Okay. So in the maintenance department world, we have to think about home warranty. Okay. So that's why we have the human in the loop aspect of this, right? So like submitting a home warranty claim. Okay. I need somebody to call the town because the water's off and maybe a sewer issue. So think about an action that you feel is like an outreach. A resident says, hey, I need to speak with somebody. Okay. If you have the maintenance department, we have a human in the loop that steps in and fills that. Or if you have the force multiplier, your team's getting notified about that. So when you think about what it doesn't do, but the big thing that it doesn't do right now, and it will be coming out this year, specifically for people with in-house maintenance teams. So Roo looks at a skill set, studies a skill set, and basically the way that AI works is like, just understand that within 3 to 6 months, you're going to see a new skill set taken off of the labor force, like in that way. So the next thing that's coming up is intelligent vendor routing and load distribution for ensuring that people with in-house maintenance teams are optimizing truck roll costs and route distribution. On average, a lot of people are losing a lot of money in that maintenance coordination, and that's going to be an area where Roo is going to excel. So right now, Roo can't load distribute and then do intelligent routing. It can just distribute it based upon the way that you're telling it to put things. So that's one for sure.